faraway land, there lived a man named Mr. Wise. He had 3 sons. Least wise was the smallest, and lengthwise was the tallest, and otherwise was the strongest. They were just ordinary little boys who liked to run and play, but as they grew, their father taught them well. In all his teaching, he stressed love and kindness to all living creatures, no matter what it was, whether it walked or crawled, flew or swam, slithered or jumped. The boys listened to their father and obeyed his teachings. That's how they became the 3 wise kids. They loved their father and always strived to please him. Mr. Wise was so proud of his sons that he bought them each a fine camel. Then one night, they got a strange message from out there somewhere. It must have been some sort of email. The message was that a king was coming to visit in the big city. Now, it was a tradition that when a king came to visit, everyone turned out and brought fine gifts for him. When the brothers told their father about the message, he told them that they, not he, must make the long trip to the big city. You are not my little wise kids anymore. From now on, I shall call you my 3 wise guys, he told them. He gave them some gold and silver coin and several jewels, and he told them to stop at the marketplace to buy something else too. He gave them each a big hug and sent them on their way. They mounted their camels and headed for the marketplace. The wise guys looked around for a while and bought some rank incense and a mirror, as well as some fine silk for a shirt. When they finished shopping, they got back on their camels and were on their way to see the king. Daylight was fading fast, and soon night would be upon them. Just as the last rays of the sunlight faded, a strange light appeared in the sky. It was a very intense light. There must have been some awfully big flashlight up there to make such a strong light. The guys shaded their eyes with their hands because the light was so strong. And they moved along. The light moved with them, showing a trail they were to follow. With the camels' hoofs beating out of tempo on the road and the steady swaying of their bodies, the 3 wise guys became very drowsy, very drowsy, very, very drowsy. Suddenly, Otherwise spied something coming towards him, half running and half hobbling, as if it were in pain. The 3 brothers pulled their camels to a halt. "Who goes there?" Leastwise asked. "Oh, I am glad someone came by. I saw that bright light in the sky and came out to see what it was. My name is Little Chick." "Wait a minute, Little Chick. Slow down. You are all out of breath," said Otherwise. "Why are you in such a hurry?" said Lengthwise. "I am going to see the king. I came outdoors and stood under a big oak tree, and something fell on my head," said the Little Chick. "I know the sky is falling, and I must hurry to tell the king." She stopped talking long enough to catch her breath, and then she started again. "When I